with America's Mayor live from New York. And tonight, I begin with a surprise, and that is the 10-year agreement that we reached, or that Biden reached, with the country in which he made the second most amount of money, Ukraine. It's a 10-year agreement. It's a lot of money for Ukraine. We will defend them, no boots on the ground. We'll give them arms, but then we'll tell them how to use it. So we will make sure for the next 10 years that, once again, Ukraine doesn't win a war. Um, for example, in 2014, when they were invaded, Obama actually didn't even do as well as Biden. He refused to give them really arms. He wanted them to fight with bow and arrows and slingshots, which of course didn't work. And Russia took what it wanted of Ukraine, which is essentially 25% of it. All through the years up until uh, a sissy coward got back in the White House, Putin did nothing. He kept what he had, but he didn't try to go for more because he was afraid of Trump. Um, just like he wasn't afraid of Obama and he wasn't afraid of Bush because he he attacked under both of them. But as soon as he got Obama, he didn't need much more than to watch him act like a dishonorable. I would say Putin has come to the conclusion that Biden is a traitor, having given away the Bagram Air Base. I would say a head of state would see that as, wow, I'd never give up a base 400 miles from the United States unless I actually had to. And he didn't have to. He did it on his own. Hmm. And I wonder if there's any connection between that and the fact that he got $31 million from that country. I would say Putin, as a former KGB agent, would have a much easier time coming to that conclusion than the silly, soft-headed liberals in the United States. So uh, we have now brought ourselves into 10 more years with Ukraine. We've given them $60 billion more. We're yet to get a plan on what they're going to do with this. We're yet to get a plan as to how they're going to win. Well, we keep saying they have to win, but we don't say what win is. Finally, and maybe worst of all, and just raises all of my suspicions. Biden keeps nixing any idea of a monitor, an accounting, an assurance that the money, which has been a massive amount of money, has gone actually to the purpose of winning this war, since we're not winning it. We haven't had, I mean, Ukraine hasn't had real progress in this war about a year and a half to 2 years. And I mean, there could be a lot of reason for it, but they all stem from us. One is, yes, we give them weapons, uh, but it seems to me we give them a lot more money than weapons, or they sell the weapons because they never seem to have enough weapons, and we never seem to get it to them in time. And then when we give it to them, just in case it might cause some trouble with Putin and Putin will get angry, we don't allow them to use them. At least we can't use them by allowing them to shoot even 1 mile into Russia. So Russia can bomb the heck out of that whole area of Ukraine that it wants, which is right on its frontier, right on its border. They can't hit back until a few weeks ago. Now, a few weeks ago, they were allowed to hit back, but only within a 3 or 4 mile radius, which the Russians deal with very quickly and easily by moving back beyond that. So this has really pretty much consigned the city, for example, of Kharkiv, which is 30 miles from Russia and my favorite city in Ukraine, to just being bombarded every night and unable to defend itself. So yes, we gave them 160 billion. Yes, we now gave them weapons. What good are they? They can't use them because Biden, for some complex reason within the group of oligarchs that runs the United States, we don't want them to win. Sick. We want them to die. And I mean, even if you don't want to come to that conclusion, you got to come to the conclusion that having presented no accountability for the money, they're going to steal some of it. That's what that country does. It steals money. I know of 5 billion in aid that's unaccounted for 7 years, 8 years. They don't know what they did with it. Ukraine doesn't know what it did with the 5 billion. Um, it also has some of the wealthiest people in the world, and it's one of the poorer countries. It was the biggest contributor, by the way, just to give you an idea of its taste for corruption. Of all the big countries and wealthy countries in the world, it was the biggest contributor to the phony Clinton Foundation. So when I watch these two men, I see something very different than you do. I see a man who is the biggest crook in the history of the American presidency. A great deal of his money was made in this country. He spent the last 3 of his 4 days as vice president there. Um, he was directly involved with one of the worst criminals, Zlochevsky, who was Russian oriented. So I see a crook like Biden who plays both sides, Russia and Ukraine. And then on the other hand, I don't know what to make of Zelensky other than he's not a really honest man because he is sitting on top of all of the evidence of Biden and other Democrats' culpability for some of the worst crimes at the highest level of government that clearly corrupted his government. Indeed, he's got dead on evidence of the receipt of massive bribes by his prior president, Poroshenko, and does nothing about it. Not only that, all the oligarchs that were involved with Poroshenko in the dividing up of those bribes, he has all that information and he's holding on to it. And he's come up with a clever excuse not to have elections. So now I can see a couple of motives for a war without end, right? Um, without upsetting Russia and therefore creating the possibility of a nuclear war, let's assume that that's Biden's motive to have him not win the war. We still get a great opportunity for all these crooks to make a fortune endlessly. It's like Arafat. Arafat never wanted the war to end. Our friend here doesn't seem to want the war to end. He doesn't come to Congress and say, give me 100 million and I'll end the war. Here's how I'll end it. Or give me 20 billion and I'll end the war. And here's how I'll end it. Bibi, on the other hand, tells you how he's going to end the war. He's going to eliminate Hamas. And we give him only 14 billion. So I see this as very, very stinky, horrible arrangement. And here's the worst part. People of Ukraine are screwed badly. Number one, they're screwed by the fact that Biden was elected because they wouldn't be dead if he wasn't. Hundreds of thousands of them would be alive today because Putin would not have invaded. And second, increasing numbers of them are dying because it's in the interests of the little man and Biden to continue this war forever and ever and ever, which may end the day that the crook in chief is removed from office. So now we have a 10-year agreement with a government that is to always be described as the second most corrupt to Russia in the world. And then there were those who would say it was the most corrupt, and people who were, worried that there too much pro-Russian sympathy in America would accuse them of being pro-Russian by saying that Russia was the second most corrupt. I don't know. It's pretty bad to be the second most corrupt. To tell you the truth, having not done that much work in Russia, only been there like 3-4 times, but having done a lot of work in Ukraine, it'd be tough to be worse than Ukraine. It'd be tough. I remember the first time I went there, none other than John McCain. I said to him, John, who can I trust there? He said, nobody. And then he said, oh no, Victor Yadashenko, you can trust. He's the only honest man. And of course, they rendered him pretty close to useless by poisoning. So I do not believe that the Russian Navy has a nuclear submarine 200 miles off our shore. I think John F. Kennedy must be turning in his grave. Isn't that what the whole nuclear showdown with Khrushchev was all about? About bringing nuclear arms to the New World, and they brought in 4 warships without even a peep from a little sissy boy, and I mean the guy who sits down without a chair being there, or goes in his pants. I don't know, whatever he was doing. But the U.S. we should feel very confident. Jake Sullivan told reporters that the U.S. is closely monitoring things, the way they closely monitored the balloon, and they escorted the Chinese balloon to all of our most important sites so they could get the best possible pictures, and let them stay there as long as they wanted, so they could get long-term exposures too. Well, and then they only hit it after it left the shores of the United States. Nobody aboard, of course, and they must have gotten Z's permission for that. Um, I think he probably called his friend Z and said, well, he probably didn't. Whoever acts for him, the little committee of Trotskyites who act for him. So I would say that Jake Sullivan closely monitoring the situation and assuring us that there's no evidence that Russia is transferring any missiles to Cuba is without any doubt very assuring. I have great confidence in that little weasel, Jake Sullivan. He's one of the biggest liars in the White House. He's one of the participants in several obstructions of justice to remove a lawfully elected president. He knows that his job exists only because of several frauds that they carried out. And I've always wondered if he really cares about America, because I don't know how you could sit there with a demented man as the president and not say something about it. But Jake Sullivan tells us that we don't have to worry about Russia, even though they're 200 miles from us with a nuclear submarine. So we won't worry, Jake. Mm-hmm. You're so good. Uh, the war in Israel or in Gaza or on the border of Israel and Lebanon, that war is going very differently. We're about to win it, except Biden wants to lose that one too. See, the one in Ukraine, he says he wants to win, but he acts like he wants to lose. The one in Israel, he's now even given up, saying he wants to win it. He wants to stop it now, so that Hamas has a critical mass still, at least half their forces, so that sometime within the next 3-4 years, with the help of Iran, they can destroy Israel. That's the only thing I can figure out that's logical. There's a group wants to destroy Israel. It's called Hamas. They have, over the past 20 years, as they've been given this special status of ruining that beautiful land right on the Mediterranean, which they did, largely because their leadership are not only terrorists, murderers, barbarians, they're also thieves. They steal all the money. So the people there got nothing, even though we put a fortune in. Sinwar says, thank you. And I don't know if he gets his money in cash like bin Laden, like Ayatollah did from Obama, but maybe he probably could get it if he really pushed Biden enough. So they want Bibi to stop now. It's enough. Come on, leave. After all, Hamas is a proxy of Iran, and aren't we on Iran's side? Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm against Iran, the reign of terror. I think it's one of the worst countries in the world, and could be one of the most dangerous because it has an irrational leader who wants to have nuclear weapons. But as far as I can tell, it's one of the nations sort of like in the golden circle. It can't do anything wrong. I don't know how many countries we give hundreds of millions of dollars in cash to. I hope not too many. But in any event, we did. And that's usually done so you can contract business with terrorists and drug dealers. Well, there is really a second front really by now opening up. So although Gaza has calmed down somewhat, not completely, the second front is becoming more active. So when we come back, we'll discuss that with you, and also we'll talk about those terrorists that were arrested that should sure put us on notice that Biden has sure brought a lot of these terrorists in the United States, and even he doesn't know how many. We'll be right back.
Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
Everybody, Giuliani back with America's Mayor Live, and I said we would bring you up to date on what's going on in Israel and the implications of it. So the back and forth between Biden and Bibi has seemed to resolve itself in Bibi not paying attention to him and just going ahead and attacking day by day in Gaza. Not massive attacks, but it seems to me that they're husbanding the time they have to focus on the big shots, the people who run Hamas. They can't get Sinwar. Sinwar announced rather prominently yesterday he doesn't want an end to the war. He rejects the ceasefire agreements. I mean, Biden can't get anybody to agree with him. He really can't get anybody to agree with him except the communists and the communists in his administration. And it isn't Biden. He's got a whole little committee, and they're so stupid. I mean, the agreement they put forward is supposed to settle the war between Israel and Hamas. Israel doesn't want it, and Hamas doesn't want it. And is there a tactic to that? To what? This is a war he doesn't want to continue. This is a war that Biden would very much like to get over. He's not making money on this war, as far as I know. There's no evidence of him whacking up money in Israel. Plenty of evidence of his whacking up money in Ukraine, and to a disgusting degree. He's well known in Ukraine as a corrupt American politician, and they're corrupt American politicians that they own because they have so much on him. So his aim here is only to empower Iran, the country that, after all, he and Obama have invested billions in. They may not like them, but they do. So right now you have wars going on, not at the massive level, it was never really massive, at the heavy level that it was at earlier. But you still have wars going on down here. So this is Gaza right down here. And this is the part that's in contest right here. That's Khan Yunis right over here. This is Rafah right here. This is the Philadelphia corridor that is so important to getting into Egypt, which will get you nowhere because that entrance into Egypt is cut off. You get in for a couple of football fields, and then Egypt locks you in because Egypt is not stupid enough to take Palestinians. Only Biden is stupid enough to want to take Palestinians, or doesn't care enough about the safety of his own people to take Palestinians. The king of Jordan doesn't take Palestinians, but our president does, because our president doesn't seem to be affected by the fact that people kill Americans. He's certainly not affected by that fact in doing anything about fentanyl, where the deaths have gone up each year about 3-4 times over what they were, not only under Trump, under any other prior American president. So right here, all they'd have to do is take this area here. They probably have to go back and do some cleanup work in the north because some military activities are now breaking out in the north. Now, they're put down very quickly. So, like when they had to do the recovery there which was about the middle. They came in, they landed over here on the shore. They came into the compound. They took the two buildings. They created the diversion, the bombing diversion, and out with the four hostages they were. And I'd like to see more of that. I doubt that we're going to see it, although we've got more resources to do that than Israel. We should be doing it for them and us, with our special forces and our rangers and all of the units like that we have. I mean, they're as good as we are, but we have more, so we could do a lot of it. Now up here, up in here, you can see some of these blue lines. Those are supposed to be the non-military, the demilitarized zone, let's call it, where you're not supposed to be having troops. Hezbollah has been violating that for years. Since the 7th, they've been violating it to the point of shooting from there into Israel and showering this area of Israel down to Nazareth with bombs. 100,000 people have been evacuated by the Israelis from the north. The casualties have been modest because of Iron Dome and David Sling, and the fact that although Hezbollah is more advanced than Hamas, don't get too excited about that. We're still talking about a certain percentage of their missiles backs up and kills them. So and even the Iraqis, the Iranians who trained them, remember they fought Iraq to a 7-year duel. And what did it take us? 30 days to take Iraq. So when you got to keep this in. Nobody is trying to underestimate them, and I never underestimated them before a battle. But once the battle is ongoing, then we got to tell the truth about it. They've been pounding Israel now, where if they were a sophisticated military, that whole northern part of Israel would be gone. Well, it's not gone. It's been hurt. Casualties low. More casualties on their side by a lot, because Israel hits back, and it hits back hard. And yesterday, when it hit back, it killed their commander. They don't kill the Israeli commander. They know where they are. They killed Talib Sami Abdullah. Goodbye, Talib. If you're a practicing Muslim, maybe you could check back with us on that 79 virgin thing. I want to, I have trouble with the mathematics of that one. But like, how could there be that many? There's like 50 plus little percentage women and 49 fraction percent men. 72. I don't know if he had said something like 2 or 3, it might have been more credible. But and then as Saturday Night Live once pointed out, when they were funny and they were imitating Bush pointed out in a address to the American people, you have no assurance of what they look like. So no reason to give up your life for the unknown. Instead, join the Bush Cheney call and sex program, where you can have pictures of these girls. That's when Saturday Night Live was funny. So that's going on, and it's creeping toward an all-out war. And I think that as these things go on, they develop a life of their own. And it began really as Hezbollah backing up Hamas, and not backing them up very strongly, because it's hard to know exactly how much Hezbollah is in favor of this. Now, since we know that both of them are proxies of Iran, and proxies can sort of get jealous of each other, right? Like siblings. Who's the favorite proxy? Hezbollah has been quite critical of how they've carried this out. If they were going to do it, here's the way they would have done it. On the other hand, the back and forth with Israel, as I said, is becoming a life of its own. They're starting to knock off the whole Hezbollah leadership. Well, Hezbollah want to get even for that. So we'll have to see. They hit Israel very hard on Sunday, and Israel, as it normally does, hit him back 4 times as hard. They shot in 215 rockets, none of whom killed anybody, and some of them destroyed some trucks. The rest hit fields and were diverted, and some didn't get off at all. Um, they killed actually 3 Hezbollah fighters, and then the senior field commander Taleb Abdullah that I mentioned. Um, and this article says it was 90 projectiles that were fired. So you always get, which were intercepted, and some caused fires in parts of the northern area. Um, Hamas has toughened up their positions and are fighting back more because there's so many delays, and Israel hits and has to stop, hit, stop, hit, stop, so they can reinforce. But basically, they're poised to just wipe them out in Rafah, and of course it's delayed. It's delayed by Bibi, is delayed by Biden, but while he has time, he tries to take advantage of it, and he's knocking out important people and important places. He's also going back and redoubling their efforts in the north where they might have missed a few people. So it's not as if he's wasting time. He's unlike the little guy in Ukraine. He's got a clear mission and a plan that you can support. Get rid of Hamas. Not bad for us since their secondary target, maybe their primary target, is America. Death to Israel, death to America. Remember, all Palestinians. Don't get wishy-washy and all sentimental about Palestinians. The Queen of Jordan is Palestinian, and she doesn't take him into her country. So don't get dopey. Uh, Now, how many of them have gotten to the United States without our knowing? I don't know. I would imagine there are Palestinian operatives in the United States. I think there's operatives of now with 3.5 years of a completely open border, where we find out in today's papers, although that nobody gets questioned that comes in. The idea of when we say vetting, it's a euphemism for getting somebody's signature on a piece of paper and setting down a date like 6 years from now for coming back, which gives us no chance to figure out who the hell they are. The Chinese are down to 4 questions because they were getting annoyed they're being delayed. Imagine illegals being delayed. So, so now we've absorbed 8. They got arrested. They're from Kazakhstan, and and we don't know because the government's not is covering it up as much as possible. Even though we had this theory that we were going to be transparent about terrorism, but they have ties to ISIS. They are some on the terrorist watch list. One is a fairly major operative. There was a leak of a wire in which they talked about bombing, and they were quickly rounded up, and they are now sitting in a facility to be sent back to Kazakhstan, which is one of the places you can send people back. You should know that when Biden made that big thing toward, I'm going to close down the border, he immediately sent out a wire saying there are 100 countries that you can't return people to. Well, that's half the world. What a phony he is. Um, I think you see the scoundrel Christopher Wray on your screen right now. He's explaining to us that, oh my goodness, we've got lots of terrorists here, and the last 3 years they were all coming in, and I didn't know. How come I knew and you knew, but he didn't? So now he did nothing about it in 3 years except chase around Catholics who go to Latin Mass and people who happen to be within 9 miles of the Capitol on January 6th. And now he's wondering, who are these people? Where are they? How about if he started at the border? Wouldn't an intelligent, patriotic FBI director say, if a president is stupid enough just to allow people in, terrorists are going to be smart enough to take advantage of? and therefore I'm going to have my people all over this. And whether he's keeping track of this or not, I am, because when the attack takes place, he's the first guy that should be fired, because it's way too little and way too late. What he's doing now, and the fact that they don't put out any details doesn't help law enforcement, because the FBI doesn't give much. So it would be very, very helpful for the people to know what kind of intelligence we got from them. When I was the mayor of New York, we got an enormous amount of intelligence. And for example, and we used it on 9/11, we had a priority list of the places the terrorists would hit if they attacked us, from 1 to 150. And what was it based on? It wasn't based on my guessing or Carrick guessing, or it was based on the arrests that were made of terrorists. Cool. We made some of them, as with the Joint Terrorism Task Force. We even very heroically, one of our police officers stopped the bombing by killing the guy. But we would collect the evidence and share it. And the evidence would give you an idea of what they were thinking about. So we killed this guy. When we killed him, he had plans for the Brooklyn Bridge, let's say, and the subways. He was going to do subways in the Brooklyn Bridge. Another guy would have plans for the Metropolitan Museum of Art or St. Patrick's Cathedral. Or so you over a period of years, and this went on for years. Over a period of years, you start to give scores to these places, almost to the point of a list. Priority target number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And you develop a plan to disperse your police there at a time of warning. And so if they keep the information to themselves, you never get that. So suppose these guys were thinking about hitting New York. Well, they sure as hell better let New York know, because New York because there might be another group behind them doing the same thing. So then New York can get on notice to cover their sensitive spots. I mean, this was developed to an art, really, from Reagan on, and with trial and error of the worst kind at times. But by the time by the time we handled 9/11, in the period right after that, the country was really pretty safe, and I was pretty confident we weren't going to get another attack. Um, for the last 2 years, even before you noticed it, I think I went to a 9/11 ceremony right after Biden was in. And I said, this is the first time I can't tell you that we're safer now than we were before September 11, because we have a president who's virtually sending out invitations for an attack. Now it's way beyond that. Where we were in 2001, September 11, 2001, we're way beyond that now. And boy, you don't have to listen to me. All you got to do is put on anything but, the communist stations. And there are plenty of people telling you that, not just Republicans. Just to give you some numbers, courtesy of Todd Bensman, who knows more about the border than just about anybody. Generally, we would come across between 3,000 and 4,000 individuals who are on the terrorist watch list. Since Traitor in Chief has become president, we're averaging 70 to 100,000 a year. What did I say? 2 to 3,000 to 70 to 100,000 a year. You think maybe he's become a source of attraction for them? You think when he got up at the Democratic convention in 2020 and said, surge to the border, they said, thank you, Joe. You've always been very nice to us with all that money that Obama gave us to save the Ayatollah so he could kill your people. And this is really nice that you've opened the door to us. We always had a little difficulty coming in. We could get in, but it was a little difficult. Now we can get really big stuff in, and we can take our time and wait for a real opportunity to make a splash. Because you understand, we're much more patient than you are, and we do believe in what we believe in, even though it's murder and hatred. And we're listening to the bad Muhammad, not the good Muhammad, and we're following it. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back.
year, we're having the biggest sale ever on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save 60% on our Goose Down comforters, the best comforters ever. They go perfectly with our MyPillow bed sheets and duvet covers. Save 25% on our brand new kitchen towels. They're made with the same technology as our famous My Towels. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. Our seasonal flannel sheets are finally in. You save up to 50% and they sell out fast every year, so order now. They're truly the best flannel sheets you'll ever sleep on. Or save up to 80% on all our clearance items. And this is where it gets even better. For a limited time, your entire order ships absolutely free. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use that promo code to get deep discounts on all MyPillow products. And for a limited time, your order ships absolutely free.
Well, welcome back. And my goodness, the situation in Georgia gets more and more complicated. If first you practice to deceive, you have to weave endless webs of deception. So I actually believe the key testimony down there is the one I play for you and they ignore, which is that Fannie stole money from her campaign finance fund, and she's walking around with nobody caring. And I attribute that to how crooked Fulton County is. And now I'm gonna watch you watch a dishonest reporter operate with Mr. Wade. If journalism really had ethics, she'd be fired. You don't let somebody do this. You nail them. You think they'd let me do this? No. You think they wouldn't make this the major item on the news for the next 2 days? This is about as big. He might as well take out a sign when he's doing this and saying, "I am a big liar," because I'm going to show you I'm going to act like one. Let's go ahead and let's watch Caitlin CNN question a guy that she could have been a really hero journalist with, but instead turns out to be a turncoat.
To say that, okay, these exact dates are at issue, and these exact dates are, I'm getting signaled here.
No. Yeah, take it. You want to go off mic for a second?
Yes.
Okay. Go off mic for a second.
Keep rolling?
Yeah, keep rolling. Don't stop down there. Stay at speed.
Everything okay?
Yeah.
Just to revisit the question, it was to clarify when the romantic relationship started and when it ended.
Sure. So, I believe that the public has, through the testimony and other interviews, the public has a clear snapshot that this is clearly just a distraction. It is not a relevant issue in this case, and I think that we should be focusing on more of the facts and the indictment in the case.
Well, I ask because obviously it's still a pending matter. It's going to be before the Court of Appeals, and you talked about how proud you were of all the work that you did in this office. And I think the question that people have when they hear from the Court of Appeals, this isn't happening until next spring, is did the relationship jeopardize that work that you did in this investigation? And
therein lies the issue, why we wouldn't touch upon the work of the Court of Appeals or some higher court, because it's a pending issue before them. I think that we should allow them, take a step back and allow them to take the evidence that they have and do their work, make the decision.
Right, but you...
More dishonest, her or him? What would you say? Pretty damn close, huh? I mean, she also lets him get off the hook. The question is real simple. Now, remember, I'm an expert on the art of questioning. And one of the keys to asking questions is to remember your question and pursue it. I'm not going to put you in court as a trial lawyer if you can't do that. And I wouldn't put you on television as a reporter if you couldn't do it. But most of them can't do it. Most of them don't have the discipline to do it. But this one did it to cover him because of her ideology or sucking up to her communist bosses. I mean, she had him nailed, right? The question she was asking him was, what was the date that he first started his illicit affair with Fanny the Hoe? When? When did he start it? And the testimony at the very beginning, when he was giving it to Mike Roman's lawyer, was that it started about a year and a half before he was hired. So when he was hired as her lover. And I'm going to tell you what he was hired for. Boy, you got to be a jerk not to realize it. To be her go-between with the White House. Just like Bragg had go-between with the White House orchestrated this whole damn thing. You don't get 4 indictments on one guy in 1 year that the president happens to be running against without the White House organizing it. And what the hell's this guy doing going up to Washington? Well, they're helping him try a case in Georgia. So she had to have a guy she trusted. Who better than the married guy you're sleeping with? You got to trust him, right? So she hired him. Now, it was very strange when she hired him because he didn't know anything about criminal litigation. Then he didn't know anything about RICO, which is a really complicated form of criminal and civil litigation. Finally, he's not the brightest guy in the world, as you just saw. And she paid him a fortune, $1 million. Enough money so that they could go off on about 6 vacations. So I mean, this is a crime. This isn't a conflict. And did you give me a conflict? This is a crime. It's called stealing government money. That's what it's called. It's a crime, big crime, and they're getting away with it. But what does he have to do to say he's lying? She asked him the question. He's about to answer it, and you see this look on his face, like I'm putting my head in the noose. Now, not as if she trapped him, and it was just asked him directly. She shouldn't let him get up. She said, what do you mean? You having trouble with that? This is the key question in the case. When did you start the relationship with her? Are you changing your testimony now that you gave? I mean, you've changed it twice. There's a third change? Are you now saying you don't remember? I mean, you first remembered that it was before she became DA. Then you remembered that it was after she became DA. Although you took 2 interruptions in order to get that straight with your lawyer. And now I ask you the question again. You want to take another interruption so your lawyer can tell you the answer? Is that what you want the American people to see? Why don't you just sit there and do the best you can to answer it? Tell us. Try something new. Try your honest recollection. He would have fallen apart. You put these liars under pressure. They're used to people doing this for them. She is a completely dishonorable person, dishonest, completely dishonest person. The last thing in the world she wanted him to do was incriminate himself and Fanny because it would help get the case against the monster in chief, in her view, thrown out. Maybe not. Maybe I don't think that's her view. I think her view is, let me suck up and get the money from the boss because the boss wants me to be insanely right-wing and Trump wants me to act like I'm Trump deranged. And then she lets him do it on television. And when he comes back, she doesn't ask him the question again. She lets him get off with giving some general explanation. And then she lets it go and doesn't say, you want to leave it that way? Because you just gave the impression you're lying. You see the difficulties that we have in dealing with this? This is what they do to me all the time. And this is what they do to Trump all the time. And this is what they do to the American people all the time, which is why Trump is not winning by what he should be winning by. I mean, a lot of people watching that might not pick up what I just described. Although I think it was really pretty telling, that expression on his face. Can we play Fanny? Because here's the one that just sticks in my craw so bad. Fanny, in the course of her hearing, admitted to taking money from her campaign fund. Now, tell me if I've heard this wrong, because if I did, I'm willing to back off it. People are getting annoyed, some people, because I call a Fanny the hoe, and they say it's racist and that it's something else. Well, it's not racist because if she acted the way she did and she was white, pink, green, yellow, or purple, I would still call her the same thing. It's a very generic term. It can mean a lot of things. It can mean like she's crooked and will take money when she shouldn't. Let's see if this doesn't qualify and entitle her to that name. Maybe we should give her a new name, like Fanny the campaign cash thief, something like that. Let's go. Let's try that one.
Cash at the house. That has been, I don't know, all my life. If you're a woman and you go on a date with a man, you better have $200 in your pocket. So if that man acts up, you can go where you want to go. So I keep cash in my house, and I don't keep cash as good in my purse like I used to, because I don't go on many dates. But when you go on a date, you should have cash in your pocket.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from, if it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible. I've had cash for years in my house. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. It's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you, I just have cash in my house. I don't have as much today as I would normally have, but I'm building.
Stop that. Did she just say I took out a lot of money for my first campaign? And nobody follows up on that because Fulton County's so crooked. That's like if you live in a world of murderers. Like if the mafia were having a meeting, and the guy said, "Yeah, I knocked off Rocco and Sal," and they'd all move on, not even bat an eyelash. Not even the judge, who's got something wrong with him too. Uh, the judge doesn't interrupt and say, "What do you mean by that? You took money out of your campaign fund?" And nobody is independent or honest enough in the entire state of Georgia, including their useless governor, to follow up on that. I mean, he has a right to remove her. If she's taking campaign money out of her campaign fund for personal uses, like going on vacations with her boyfriend, she should be removed. But I mean, all Kemp wants to do is make sure Trump doesn't get in the White House. Because if anybody, not Kemp, Kemp, all he wants to do, because he knows that Kemp knows that Trump knows who he is, just like Ratzenberger, who, by the way, has now been removed from the election commission after all that time, the perfect campaign, and oh, it's terrible what Trump did to me and calling me. He gets removed from the election commission because, as the lieutenant governor said, every election he's been involved in has been a serious problem. It turned out that Trump was right about all this. You never see it on NBC or CBS. It's like the hard drive. You would never know that I was completely vindicated on the hard drive, would you? But I know, and I'm suing Biden over it. So let's take a look. Let's take a look at, since we have a debate coming up pretty soon, right? The last time these two men met, one man lied to the American people in order to become president. I don't know how many times an American politician has lied as directly to the American people to become president as this one. Maybe Franklin Roosevelt, when he said in 1944 he was healthy and died a few weeks later. But he was probably like Biden at that point. Oh, right. Yes, Stalin, you can have all of Eastern Europe. You want more? Want more in Eastern Europe? All the communists around me tell me I should give you Eastern, and we'll wait for you to come into East Berlin. That Patton guy, thinks he can take East Berlin before you get there, but I promised you, Joe. Then Churchill would lean over and say, he wasn't supposed to be our friend. We were using him, Franklin. Remember? He killed as many people as Hitler, maybe more. Oh, Oh. Walter, I think, was a month before he died, maybe 2. When he ran for president, he never would show him on radio. Sound familiar? And then he gave us the Cold War. His mental inability and his inability to focus on the White House he had around him, made up of communists, if you went to jail for it, made sure that Russia got a very, very big piece of what happened after the war, because he felt an obligation to them, whereas Churchill felt that they had to be used, and now they're going to be our next enemy. Let's screw them. No wonder Churchill was one of the great men of the 20th century, and Roosevelt, Reagan was a much better president in the 20th century than Roosevelt. Nobody put Roosevelt up on Mount Rushmore. They may put him down at the bottom. Was he better than Biden? Yeah, a lot better. So let's listen to this and see somebody lie his way to the presidency.
Race. We're talking about the issue
from hell.
President Trump, we're
Nobody.
talking about race right now, and I do want to stay on the issue of race. President Trump,
And I
you've
have
just
to respond to that.
Please,
Because look,
very
there
quickly.
are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his and his good friend Rudy Giuliani.
You mean the laptop is now another Russia hoax?
And that's exactly what.
Is this
that's
where you're
exactly
going?
what.
This
was
is
told.
where he's going. The laptop is Russia,
Yes.
Russia,
Gentlemen,
Russia.
I want to stay on the issue of race.
You
okay?
have to be kidding. Here we
Mr.
go
President,
again with Russia.
We're going to continue.
Notice how Kristen Welker gets off that. Now, in retrospect, historically, that's going to be considered a tremendous mistake because there was so much to follow up on. At that moment, you should know that the FBI knew for 8 months that the hard drive and the computer were completely legitimate. It had not only been validated, it had been checked out for accuracy. There wasn't even a question within the federal government when the president of the United States, the highest ranking official of the federal government, made those false remarks. What do you say, 60 or 51 or the high ranking officials that he got had all of 2 days to consider it and never got to see the hard drive, to ask a question about it, to read anything about it. They were told by Stinkin' Blinken and Morrell, Admiral Morrell, who I was once told was an honorable man. Boy, that was untrue. He got them to all sign it within the amount of time so they could use it as a ploy at the debate. That was all signed in time for him to be able to do what he did then, which is to lie to the American people. And then who knew that with that, the media would back up the lie and then go so far as to do something they never did in American history that I know of, censor the oldest newspaper in the United States that had overwhelming evidence of 50 to 60 massive crimes by the man trying to be president of the United States. I mean, it contains things like the son describing how the money got to him. I gave half my salary to my father for 30 years and paid for all the expenses of the house. That's how I laundered the money to him. Hunter makes it easy. You're not even told that now. Now, you weren't told during the trial that Hunter's drug addiction is a very, very aggressive form of drug addiction that is not a victimless crime. He drives automobiles under the influence of massive amounts of crack cocaine. There are pictures of it. I don't know how many of those were offered into evidence. There are a lot. And he's also a tremendous danger to young minor children, including a statement to that effect by one minor child psychiatrist that he should be kept away because he's sexually inappropriate. And his own statement saying that he's a danger to children. And then the obvious evidence that you have of all of these pictures in a home with minor children of him walking around with absolutely no clothes on, displaying his private parts as if he was some kind of porno weirdo, and and talking in front of them as the text message says, talking in front of them talking in front of the kids to prostitutes. So when they played this sympathy for Hunter, all this should have played into it too, but it didn't, because it was a fix. The case was a fix. It was like, okay, we have to get him on something, so let's make it something rather benign. We can walk him out with no sentence. And I just hope, beyond hope, that they don't get away with this. Because if they get away with it, even if we elect Trump, if they get away with it, they'll do it again. They'll just get prepared to do it in the next term, the way they did when they got 4 years off with Trump. So the good guys beat the bad guys in baseball, but I don't think they just beat them. Didn't they? Didn't the Republican athletes wipe out 31-11 the Democrat sissies?
That's my understanding, yes, sir.
Do the Democrats know how to throw? Can they like throw a ball? Can they, throw, or do they throw it like this? What do you think?
New ticker to go with there.
They throw like the lefty.
They play at Nats Park every year. Have you ever been to the game, Mayor?
Why would I go to the game?
I guess, did they not do it back when you were in D.C.?
Yeah, sure. They used to play it.
You never went?
It was never a big thing until Scalise got shot, actually.
Okay. Yeah, I went to a couple. I was in D.C. and I just went to, I feel like the Republicans were supposed to win.
Why? Because we're real men and this is.
Yeah, come on. Think of the Democrat Party of today, and think of the Republican Party. If someone's holding an American flag, you basically know what political party they're supporting, right?
And when the people are lined up for a president to come, it's a Democratic president if they have no flags.
I remember that. We were at the corner of a busy intersection in New York.
You can tell it's a Democratic crowd if they have no flags. Or, even worse, the flag's a burner.
Yeah, no, they're not. Certainly not proudly waving any flags. But there was a little bit of there was some protesters at the game. We have a short little video here we'll play.
Protesting the game?
At the congressional baseball game.
I think they should all move to Gaza.
Those guys went over the top like you go out to see a professional ball, like they do it at Yankees. Used to do it at Yankees. That's what I used to do. Oh, yeah. Shut pal.
Well, these cops live for this moment. These officers, they're sitting there most of the game. Sitting there. They're waiting for that. Well, I would say pretty stupid to storm the congressional baseball game after what happened to. Oh wow, yeah.
Did he push back? He did.
Yeah, he did. That's not good. Not a good idea.
Should we go to jail for 50 years? January 6th, people.
Right?
Why is it?
Look, he pushed her.
Why isn't that an insurrection?
Right here. What's that guy about to do to this woman cop? That's not okay.
I know what they will find.
Oh, they don't see the. I'd like to see the rest
Yeah,
of
I
it.
gotta see that
woman cop.
yeah.
I'd like to see if she puts him down.
We'll try to get some longer form of that.
Because I'm going to tell you, I had a female police officer in my detail, and one day a guy threatened me. Shortly after I threw Arafat out of the UN, his name was Mohammed, of course, and he was a cab driver, of course, and he saw me across the street near the World Trade Center, believe it or not. And as I was going to a meeting, he ran out of the car. He ran toward me. He started cursing at me, yelling at me, and saying, how sacrilegious I was in keeping Arafat. I mean, he must have thought Arafat was some kind of god or something. And all of a sudden, my other cops turn around and look at it, and before you can say boo, Patty Verone had tackled him. She missed her tackle, but Patty Verone put him right down and flipped him. Fat guy too. Flipped him, had the handcuffs on him like they don't do now anymore. I mean, now everybody struggles to put on handcuffs. When my cops made arrests in my presence, holy wow. You don't even see the handcuffs go on. All of a sudden, the guy was on the ground, the handcuffs were on. How did they get there? Because they put them on before the person even knows what's going on. They use the element of surprise. They're well trained. But Patty proved her this stuff about women can't. She was tackling better than last season some of the Giants and Jets. So you have a picture there. Is that one of the guys? Are you showing one of the guys? No, that guy stayed there. So they should be able to identify. Well, they probably arrested them, right? Well, that was a manly tackle.
Yeah, longer. I'll see if I can find a longer.
Well, they keep replaying that one of the blonde kid. That I got to say, the blonde kid wasn't too hard to take down. That big guy was hard to take down. Don't they know you got to hit him low? Don't they watch football? We keep picking on the blonde kid. Well, now they were going out.
They got him. They don't look very.
Was the game?
They don't seem very athletic.
Was the game over at this point?
No. These are climate change people.
Oh, they are?
Yeah.
Oh, climate change.
I think they kind of make it a thing every year. And look, they're bragging about it on social media.
Well, I know they're not ours.
Just got to be careful doing that with all those Congress people.
And therefore, if they're climate change people, this means no jail. The District of Columbia judges who like to put the J6 people in jail forever and hold them without trial for 2 years will apologize for the delay in doing the arraignment and then make it a charge that gets wiped from their record. I'm sure. This is a very sympathetic charge, after all. They probably were really protesting. First question they'll be asked, were you protesting Republicans or Democrats? They'd be well advised to say they're protesting Republicans. District of Columbia fall all over them. The judges would fall all over them. Gee, too bad we couldn't be there with you. Well, we had some of this in New York recently with the attack on the memorial to the Nova Film Festival terrorist act by Hamas, and then we ended up with a bunch of terrorist lovers who showed up and burned things and yelled and screamed and said terrible things about Jewish people and about Hitler. And then the next day, they took over a subway train and terrorized Jewish people on the subway train. And then they went to the homes of the directors of the Brooklyn Museum, which is where the exhibit is. And they put, if you want to take a look, Ted, I have it down there.
Yeah, I have it on the screen.
If you take a good look, they put this on their homes, including
right here. Look, Mayor.
Yeah. The thing to look at is the upside down triangle, which indicates this is a home. They use this. Hamas uses this when they're going to do a major strike. It's the home that you're going to hit. You know, this home, this home, this home. Then they use it in the settlements too. So that's a true symbol of terror that was used in New York, the biggest Jewish city in the world. And the best that the mayor could come up with is hate doesn't have a home in our city, which is a repeat of de Blasio, who actually helped to inspire a lot of anti-Semitism with his attitude and the way he acted and the way he gave them little or no protection. And the way in which it is not made a priority in terms of the hate crimes in New York, because it's the major one by 2 or 3 to 1. And then, of course, we've got the city council president, Adrian Adams, who wants to pass a resolution calling for a ceasefire. I know you say, the audience on my show, Ted and Rob, is very smart. It's not like the left-wing shows. Like the left-wing shows wouldn't know. They would say, well, that's very effective. That would end the war, right? Like the city council has the power to do that. People on my show, the city council has nothing to do with it. They could pass any resolution. They pass resolutions wishing happy birthday to Castro. I don't think they know he's dead. I think they think he's in Canada now, running Canada. So, I mean, the city council has several problems. They're all communists. They're radical communists. A lot of them don't know they're communists because they're too stupid to know that they're communists. And they are uniformly out of their minds and crazy. So now they're going to pass a resolution supporting the terrorist group. And that is the speaker of the city council. Usually the speaker is the only one who can, think. So the main target was Ann Pasternak. That was her. That's the door of her house, I believe. And then they also did that to the other Jewish members of the board of the Brooklyn Museum. And of course, nothing will be done about it. Nothing at all will be done about it. I mean, what we see here are things that are much worse than January 6th. And January 6th was the worst thing in the history of America. Worse than September 11, worse than Pearl Harbor, worse than the Civil War, worse than the attack on Nancy Pelosi's husband, worse than everything. I just want you to catch up on this as Biden continues to lie. This is just a quick little check done by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which he runs, by the way. So you can imagine these are doctored a little. These are numbers that came out yesterday, just year over year. Vehicle insurance is up 20.3%. You got it on? Yeah. Transportation services is up 10.5%. Tobacco's up 7.8%. Hospitals 7.2%. Vehicles 7.2%. Electricity 5.9%. That's just a 1 year number. Doesn't indicate the full effect of inflation over the 4 years of the worst president in American history, which could be anywhere from 20 to 30%. Which means if you have a IRA or you have a bank account and it had $100,000 in it, that $100,000 is worth $80,000 now or $70,000, depending on where you are and what kind of investments you have. But he's taking money right out of your pocket. Are you better off now than you were when Trump was president? The answer is resoundingly no. And in a poll recently taken, 53% of the people in Pennsylvania said that, in Democrat Pennsylvania, that we were better off under Trump. And by a small margin of 2%, they're voting for Trump right now. The debates will be soon. We'll see if the liar begins by lying again, the way he ended. And we'll see what kind of condition he's in. Suppose he shows up. Why don't we show him a couple of the highlights from how he embarrassed us in Europe? The dummy in.
Distinguished guests, please welcome the Honorable Lloyd J. Austin.
You think he'll do that during the debate? What do you think?
I think he's pooping in his diaper. That's what I think.
You don't think he was looking for a chair?
No.
He starts looking for a chair that way.
Why would you look for a chair? He walked.
What Trump would do? I would do if I had Trump. I'd go get the chair and put it under him. Hey, can I help you, old man? Should we? Do we have him staring off into space and not knowing where the hell he is?
Oh, that was a beauty.
Oh, we have the new one from today too.
Which one? What was today?
Come back.
That's a president at a time of war. He's got to decide how we save Ukraine and how Israel can defend itself. And us and China wants to overtake the world, and we got that. Please, please, please don't get brainwashed. Please don't get brainwashed again. They're trying hard to brainwash you, but please, just do not get brainwashed again. So we've had a long conversation several times about VP choices. There's an article today that says that Tim Scott has gone down. Scott considered the leading choice for much of the past year due to his passionate support for Trump, and the possibility it could help draw black votes as a.
And join in on the conversation. Comment below. Who do you think President Trump should select?
They
as,
suggested
as
now
running
he's
mate?
on the decline, but that he still could choose Scott because there's plenty of time. The reasons are, and these could be from his enemies in the Trump camp, or supporters of others who make him an enemy. They say that he might not necessarily resonate with the black vote. I think that's wrong. And he'll still play an important role in the cabinet. So, but I think it's true. I think that's true. But I think it's wrong. It's wrong that he would not affect the black vote. I think he would. Some say he's still in the mix. Some say he's not very good on TV. I don't know who's better, particularly better. The top four choices, widely decided right now, are Burgum, Rubio, Scott, and Vance. The two outside possibilities that nobody's talking about are Huckabee, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and Governor George Abbott, who we've talked about as a possibility. And then also, they have been talked about and are on the list, Elise Stefanik, Byron Donalds, and Ben Carson. So that group has remained pretty much the same. Abbott and Sanders have been added to the list we discussed on Friday, I think. And a lot of people seem to think it's Burgum. But I don't think it is anybody yet. I think it is, in fact, not. And then there was one person that was raving about what a good campaigner Scott is. So let's give it a balance.
Right. So you're right. I bet you there's no doubt this is from people who are working with the other people, or they don't want Scott, right?
They want to see what the reaction to it is.
Yeah.
Right.
But
Right.
so it comes down to fundraising. Who would present well in a debate against Kamala, and I guess who can do what? Media interviews?
I think all of them would do well against Kamala. They're all smart.
That's a good point. Who there wouldn't perform well against Kamala?
I mean, Scott is a good enough debater to take her on.
You would think.
The majority is Flynn that we got coming in on the chat.
I wouldn't say. Well, I've seen a lot of Ben Carson. I don't think I'm seeing a lot of Ben Carson.
General Flynn?
Yeah, on chat. That's
There's a few people for Flynn, but I'm seeing.
I love General Flynn. I think he's terrific, but it's not going to be. General
Ben Carson is doing really well in our chat.
There's a couple of Lake.
All right, so we're getting a lot of
they
good.
know that we're Carson fans.
Yeah.
I like some of the others. I mean, Huckabee Sanders, I would like a lot, except I think maybe she needs a little more experience, like Elise does.
I like Carson.
I like Greg Abbott. I think he's a.
I just want to know, Greg Abbott's.
I don't think we would be dealing with this crisis the way we are on the border as honestly and as well if it weren't for him.
Yeah, I would go for that.
Yep. Kamala Harris is the top 28 pick.
Kamala Harris?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. That's just how stupid those people are, man.
28%.
So there's okay.
21% wanted her to be the Democratic standard bearer, and Buttigieg and Newsom come in second at 10%. So that's a horrible. Only 21% want her to be. 41%.
Oh, I even thought it was high.
Don't want her.
That's high, by the way. That's actually not, those aren't good numbers for the sitting vice president, right? I mean, she should be in a position where.
Then
yeah, those aren't good numbers for her.
If she would have run, 37% say she would be likely to win, and 57% say she'd be likely to lose.
Yeah, those aren't good. I mean, the sitting vice president with Biden as president, you really should be the star of the party.
And
or
52%
yeah,
an unfavorable opinion of her, which seems kind of good. I saw her at 60 and 65%.
What would the Democrat Party be doing right now if they actually had a strong vice president?
They'd be pushing Joe out, which they seem to be doing anyway.
But isn't it amazing? This really shows how little faith they have in Kamala. The fact that they're still at least consider, Biden's still, as of now, their candidate.
It shows the pickle they're in.
But who do they have, Mayor? Can you name someone in the Democrat Party that would concern you could pick up some votes in the middle? I just can't name somebody right now.
I think that they're too late to do a neat switch. I think that first of all, they did it. If they did it before, you know, no matter when they do it, she becomes the president. So suppose they do it at the convention, and they don't pick her. Oh, but he doesn't step down. Okay. The way they would do it and not create an embarrassment with her is he would not step down, and they would name as their candidate someone like Newsom.
Yeah.
But if he were to step down and she's the president, then they really can't deny it to her. I think they're going to have trouble denying it to her anyway, because even though it's a very small plurality, a plurality prefers her to anybody else.
It's just crazy.
Well, we'll have plenty more on that for you as we move along and get more information on it, particularly the Republican one. I think the big issue on the Democrat side as we get closer and closer to the debate is the debate a testing ground for whether Biden can handle Trump and whether Biden can handle
anything,
the campaign, and whether he's going to fall apart. I think there are a lot of people that are going to look at it that way. Now, assume they come to the conclusion that he can't. I don't know what they can do about it. If he's too stubborn and the first stepmother wants to hang on to, you know, the trips back and forth to Paris twice a day. She seems like a pretty nasty stepmother. No stocking for Navy. Worst of all, they never even met their granddaughter.
Sick.
That's sick, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, the whole administration is sick. All that does is put a fine point on it. So, congratulations to the Republican baseball team, but you didn't really beat anybody. And congratulations to President Trump for running a really excellent campaign. You're doing a great job, by the way. And I think you're gaining every single day because you're showing yourself to be careful and thoughtful and worried about making sure the party's unified, which you did today. It had to be hard for you to go back. I know. It's hard for me to go back. Very, very bad memories of the frame up they did there and the way they're framing us now. Horrible people. You have no idea of the depth of how evil they are. But you'll find out because we're going to let you know so that you can calculate it. So you can calculate it in your vote. Do you want to go out showing them the jerks that got tackled by the police? Ted?
Say that again,
Do you
Mayor?
want to go out by showing them the jerks that were tackled by the police?
Yeah, I'm playing. I was looking at some video of Trump. Yeah.
We'll say to everyone to pray for the people of Israel, pray for the people of Ukraine, pray for the people of the United States, and God bless America.
Why'd you do that, bro? Excuse me.
Bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze,